If you use dating apps, there's something you need to understand. You never really know who's on the other side of the screen. You see a name, a few pictures, maybe a short bio, but you don't see the room that they're standing in. You don't see who's standing behind the camera, and sometimes you don't realize you were being studied long before you matched. This happened to a man named Henry, and by the time he understood what was happening, it was already too late. It was December 30th, 2025, 5 days after Christmas. Henry had just returned to his apartment after spending the holidays with his family. The decorations were still up in his living room, and the Christmas tree lights were still glowing softly in the corner. But the warmth was gone. The apartment felt quiet in a way that made the silence noticeable. Henry was 35 years old, single, not particularly outgoing, the kind of man people described as nice, but never exciting. He wasn't unattractive, he wasn't strange, he was just an average man. Dating had never really worked out for him, conversations fizzled, relationships faded, eventually he stopped trying. But that night, sitting alone at 11:30 p.m., the silence felt heavier than usual, so he decided to download Tinder for the first time. He hesitated before making the account, but he uploaded a few recent photos anyways. Most of them were from Christmas, one in front of the tree, one outside in the snow, one smiling beside his family at dinner. Nothing impressive, just honest. Before going to bed, he sent out a handful of likes to women he found attractive. Many of them were realistically out of his league. He didn't expect anything. When he woke up the next morning, there was a match waiting for him. Her name was Maya. No last name, no job listed, no bio, just 3 photos. In every single one, she was standing inside, smiling softly at the camera, with the same plain white wall behind her. Henry didn't notice that the wall never changed. He didn't notice there were no windows. He didn't notice the lighting looked artificial in all 3. He just thought she was beautiful. Henry messaged her first, "Hey, how are you?" Seconds later, she replied, "Hey." Nothing else. He tried again. "How's your morning going?" Her next message came almost instantly. "Are you alone right now?" Henry laughed quietly to himself. It was an odd question to ask someone you'd been talking to for less than 10 minutes. Still, he answered, "Yeah, just at home." Another message appeared immediately. "Do you live by yourself?" Something about the speed of her replies made it feel less like a conversation and more like a checklist. He hesitated, but answered anyway. "Yeah, small apartment about 20 minutes outside New York." "Which floor?" "Third." There was a pause. Then, "Are your neighbors close enough to hear things through the walls?" That question lingered longer than the rest. "Not really," he replied, and the response came in, "That's good." By Saturday night, she suggested they meet in person, not at a bar, not at a restaurant, at her house. She said she didn't like crowded places. The address she sent was in an older neighborhood, sparse streetlights, houses set back from the road, the kind of area that felt isolated even during the day. When Henry pulled into the driveway, there were no cars, no lights inside, no porch light, just darkness. Before he could text her, the front door slowly opened. Not all the way, just enough to reveal a narrow strip of blackness inside. Every instinct told him to leave, but he didn't. The moment he stepped inside, he felt it. The quiet, not normal quiet, quiet like the walls absorbed sound. Maya was standing at the end of the hallway waiting for him. She didn't greet him. She didn't step forward. She just watched him walk in. Halfway down the hallway behind her was a door. It had a heavy deadbolt installed on the outside. Henry noticed it immediately. He tried to rationalize it. Maybe storage, maybe renovation. There are always explanations when you want there to be. She offered him a drink and disappeared into the kitchen. While she was gone, his eyes kept drifting back to that door. The lock wasn't decorative, it was thick, industrial. It was meant to keep something in. When she returned, she stood closer than necessary. "If you didn't come home tonight," she asked calmly, "how long would it take for someone to realize you were missing?" His throat went dry. He forced a small laugh and said maybe 2 days. She nodded slowly, as if that answer mattered. Then he heard it. Movement. Slow. Dragging. from behind that locked door. His phone buzzed in his pocket. Unknown number. There was no message, just a photo. It was him, standing in her hallway, taken from behind, taken seconds ago from the direction of that door. When he slowly looked back, the deadbolt was unlocked. The door was slightly open, then came breathing, slow and heavy. More than one, it appeared. "You shouldn't have come here alone," she whispered. Henry ran. He doesn't remember unlocking the front door. He only remembers the sound behind him. Footsteps. Not running footsteps, walking footsteps. It felt measured. When he reversed out of the driveway, he saw Maya standing in the doorway, still smiling, and behind her, something moved. 3 weeks have passed, nothing happened, no strained messages, no unknown calls, no cars sitting outside his building. Eventually, Henry convinced himself it had been a setup, a group of people trying to scare strangers for entertainment. The house, the door, the breathing, maybe it was all staged. Maybe the photo was taken from a hidden camera in the hallway. It didn't matter. He moved on, until one morning before work, he checked his mailbox. There was a plain white envelope inside, no stamp, no return address, which meant it hadn't been mailed. It had been placed there. His name was written on the front in thin black ink. Inside was a photograph. It was him, sleeping in his bed, not from the doorway, not from the corner of the room, from the foot of the bed, like someone had been standing there. On the back were 4 words: 3rd floor, no neighbors. Henry's chest tightened. Those were his words, the ones he typed to her. He ran upstairs, checked his locks, everything was secure. Windows were locked, no signs of forced entry. He told himself it had to be fake, maybe taken weeks ago, maybe edited. Maybe someone had followed him home that night and learned his address. That was possible. Unsettling, but possible. He didn't sleep that night. Around 2:46 a.m. he heard something small, a sound from his living room. It wasn't loud, just a faint click of plastic, like something being tapped. He grabbed his phone and turned on the flashlight. Slowly walked out of his bedroom. The living room was empty, nothing out of place, but his Christmas tree lights were on. He hadn't turned them on. And sitting on the coffee table was a small object he didn't recognize. It was a phone. Old, cheap, prepaid. The screen was on, and there was a Tinder notification at the top. New match. Profile name, Henry. Profile picture, photo of Henry, taken in his living room from behind. The bio read, "Bored, in town for a few days." That's when Henry understood something that made everything worse. Maya didn't need to be in his house. She just needed to know where he lived. He had told her everything she needed: 3rd floor, no close neighbors, and if someone wants to get inside, they don't always break in sometimes. They wait for you to leave. This concludes tonight's story. If you are interested in additional narratives, subscribe to stay informed about upcoming releases. If you like a part 2, feel free to share your thoughts below in the comment section. Thank you all for watching and have a great rest of your day.